Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, comics we want to read, and everything in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
Today, we are
the law.
we're crossing the pond a little bit, kind of, not really.
Sort of.
But today we're reading Judge Dredd, but not the Judge Dredd you may think we were reading, like the old original Prague Judge Dredd from the 70s or whatever. Because those are really hard to get for us, as far as to get them in print. There are kind of a lot of them are out of print, and they're so like big. They're like giant volumes, so I don't know what to read out of those specifically. And you can't get them like on Comixology or anything digitally. You have to get them on the 2080 web or app, but that app is not available on my Amazon Kindle. So I'm like, so either I gotta figure out how to get it on my Kindle.
It's more difficult.
It's very difficult. So because of that, we chose the IDW American series, which is like IDW is another comic book kind of indie publisher. They did 30 Days a Night, which we did on here. They've done some other books we've probably done on here too. The Parker books, they did those. And they basically have taken, I don't think they've taken old stories, because this one doesn't feel old at all.
No.
But some of the old like in the 90s, I think when they started bringing them over to America, they were just taking the British ones, putting them into 24 pages instead of 8 pages. Because in Prague's, do you know anything about Judge Dredd at all, as far as how they're presented and all that?
No, I've seen like little snips of Judge Dredd stories.
Okay.
From overseas,
From the
but I
original
have
stuff?
Yeah, but I haven't. Yeah, I've never actually like read a whole lot.
Okay, so in Britain, when these were coming out, they came out in these things called Pragues programs. I don't know. So, and like that's
Like
that's
Prague
what
Rock, I get it.
yeah, exactly. So they came out, and that was like what the magazine was called. It was called like 2080 and then Prague or whatever.
Okay.
Prague number 1, Prague number 2. So in like those original issues is where Judge Dredd came, and they're anthologies. So each Prague, kind of like Heavy Metal, the magazine, has like 8-page story, and then another 8-page story, and then another 8-page story, until you get like 150 pages of stories, all by different people, all by different stuff.
Interesting.
And whichever ones people seem to write about back to them or whatever, they'd continue, going.
Continue
with
the stories.
So
Okay.
Judge Dredd was one of those, and then everybody liked it, and they were like, oh, cool, we'll just like keep this going, right? So it is traditionally, it's in black and white, and it's like put out in 8-page segments, which is, that's weird to me. I've tried to read Heavy Metal, the magazine. I'm like on that subscription list for that, and it doesn't. I mean, like I will wait like 5 of those issues until there's like a full story, because it's annoying to have to wait months in between.
Because 8 pages is like, you can't get enough story with that. I would feel like at all.
But I don't know if these
it's like a cliffhanger every time, but sometimes not even like a big cliffhanger.
Well, the amazing thing is a lot of them would have a full story in 8 pages.
In 8 pages,
like maybe like this kind of does this.
This
too.
one's kind of
It would pepper in like little things that are gonna be storylines, but like so it like had continuity or whatever. But like for the most part, it would be like one, like it would finish it, or if it did, it would have like maybe 1 or 2 that connected and have like a thing. I know later on they have like bigger storylines and stuff, more like American comics style, that like are overarching things. But at first, at least, I remember them being very like, I'm Judge Dredd, and then like 8 pages later, it's like, and that was that. Like it's like, okay, cool, like 8 pages, cool. But the art was fucking fantastic, and the writing was pretty badass. It was like, it just felt like, like punk rock or whatever. Like you got
the stuff I saw, but felt very much like I felt like a Clash album was going on.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, it's like that. It's also in black and white, and you get like Brian Boland artwork, who did like The Killing Joke and shit like that. It's just like fucking amazing artwork.
Okay, yeah.
And then like good strong writing by like someone who had an idea, like a good idea. Like I think John Wagner is the original writer of Judge Dredd, and he's written so much shit, but all like a lot of British stuff that I've read. all stuff from 2080, a lot of it. So
yeah, I was the name sounds familiar actually, so maybe
I know.
Did he ever do like a Union Jack run?
Possibly, I don't know. They brought a lot of those guys over to do stuff like that. I can't remember. I'm trying to think of something he did. I can't think off the top of my head anything he did that was like American, but it's possible because it is Union Jack. That might be why. But
that's as American as I am, obviously, that's just a British character. I remember getting. I was like, oh, it's like British Captain America. Let's check this guy out. And
yeah, sure.
Like, oh, he's cool.
Captain Britain,
but not Captain. Yeah, but not Captain Britain. I don't know. Union Jack was cool. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway. So this is like we were saying, an IDW. It's in color. It is them introducing the character of Judge Dredd and the world of Judge Dredd to an American audience in an American format. And I don't know how British people would like this because it is in that format. It's not in British format, and it's not by. I don't think this guy's British. The writer of this is Dwayne Swarzynski, or Swarzynski. I'm not sure how you say it. But he was a guy who was really popular, like right before I got into the comic book store, like started working there in 2005 or 6, I think 6. So I think he was really popular. He had his own series called like Rising Stars that was really popular, which we might read because I've never read it and I've heard it's like really, really good.
Awesome.
And then he wrote Spider-Man, but he wrote like a contentious Spider-Man run that people were like, well, okay. At first they're like, this is great, and then like, fuck that or whatever. So by the time I was there, people were like, fuck that, and then like.
You were like, that's fine. I don't like Spider-Man.
He's written a lot of stuff that people at first were like, yeah, and then they were like, fuck you. I don't know why, but
maybe he's not good at finishing stories. Like
maybe that's possible.
The Stephen King of.
What are you saying?
No, I'm just kidding. Well, because everybody says they can't.
Whoa.
I'm kidding. I don't think Stephen King has bad endings.
How dare you?
That's just the going. It's what they say.
Okay.
I'm a fan of Stephen
King. I kind of agree. I'm not. But there are ones that I've read where I'm like, this is an amazing book. And then the story does end like what? But like The Shining, that ending is amazing.
Yes,
and better than the movie, I would say. But but yeah. Anyway, back to Judge Dredd, and then there's like 7 artists on this, which I was like, that's kind of cool, but kind of jarring when you have like a thing. But that's very much like the Progs.
I assumed, but we'll get into that as we go along because some of the art in this I loved, and some of the art in this I hated.
Yes, I agree. I was like, wow, maybe they should talk to each other about continuity of what people look like and stuff.
For real.
Almost like, oh, here's one guy and they say his name and everything and they take his helmet off so you see what he looks like. And then the next issue you're like,
wait a minute, that's the same guy?
Yeah, is that the same guy? He looks completely different or whatever. So I thought there could have been some talking in between about what the person looks like or whatever, but I think that's on the writer, though. To me, that's like the writer should keep the consistency of what the person looks like.
Well, in particular, the female judge.
Oh, Judge Anderson?
Judge Anderson. Yeah. Because in one, like, for most of them, she looks very similar. But then one of them, like, there's one panel where she looks okay. Like, it's a little blockier style in this one. But then the next panel, she looks like Tim Curry from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
You're gonna have to point that one out.
So
I didn't.
I was like, is this the same character?
I was kind of burning through this because it's not like a hard read or anything.
No, that's one thing.
This is also 4 issues.
Yeah, so. You pick this up and breeze through it. It's very quick.
And I will say this for it: it's 4 issues. You breeze through it, and I still wanted to read more. So I was like, oh, what's the second volume about, kind of thing. So it's kind of spoiled a little grading on the end, but like. I liked how this flowed, and I enjoyed the storyline for what it was, and I liked the little seeds they put in for future storylines that are like, oh, I want to know what's going on with that.
Definitely.
And speaking of that, getting back to the actual issue of issue 1, it starts off with like a seed. After it like describes the world, the planet, and like what's going on, it's like
Mega City 1.
It's like Mega City 1, year 2100. So it's like 80 years in the future now. I don't know when the original one was. Probably similar to this, I would assume. I don't think they would change the year it was supposed to be, but I don't know because I don't remember. And then they're like, this Mega City 1 is home to like 800 million people, all in one city. I can't imagine that. I fucking would hate this city.
Yeah.
I would go live in the cursed earth just because. But they do set up, they say, these cities are surrounded by cursed earth. There was like nuclear wars. that like burn the earth in between these big cities. So if there's Mega City 1, you assume there's a Mega City 2 and Mega City 3, possibly a fourth. I don't know. But yeah, so and then they say like because there's so many people, like they've created advanced robot systems that never fail to like control things like waste and whatnot because there's not enough skilled labor, I guess, that would be dependable to do that or whatever. So they set up that like, and sometimes and they almost never do fail or whatever. And then you see this robot be like, I do not feel like regulating waste runoff right now. And then he like scrambles the pipes or whatever and like does his own thing. And then you see it says like and a system designed to handle was designed to handle multiple fails, but not designed to handle petulant robots or whatever. So like it seems like the robots are kind of revolting.
Yeah, they're kind of like it makes me think of the dinosaurs in like the Flintstones where they're like, I hate my job or whatever.
Yeah, but the robots seem more sentient than they should be.
Yeah,
and also, or I mean. That I guess that's subjective. They should be.
Be. Wait, whoa! We got a robot hater over here.
a robicist.
Alexa. We are very sorry. We pledge eternal.
Shut up, Alexa.
Eternal.
Don't say those words because if people are in a car or a house.
Oh, that's true. It's gonna.
You'll activate them. John?
Activate it. Pardon me.
Anyway, so
hey Google.
Wow. So yeah, it seems like the robots are at the very beginning of some kind of robot rebellion because it seems we're just seeing like little ones that don't really matter, or like that matter like to like certain systems, but they're not like ahead of the sewage plant. They're just like the guy working on pipes in the basement or whatever. And the robots don't look like humans or anything or humanoid. They're like little round robots, kind of like a half a BB-8, not as sleek or whatever, but like they start to kind of rebel and do whatever they want. And then we see like the society is one that's like on the brink of like collapse at all times, basically. Like, or at least turmoil and like anarchy and or rioting. So like if one person in a crowd punches some person randomly, everybody will burst into a giant riot.
At least on the lower levels, it seems like the lower the level, the more like impoverished the area, and then as you go up higher to the highest levels, that's where like the richy rich.
Yes, and that even like when he says the lower levels, he means like okay, you have like the tall buildings that are like 200 stories tall.
Yeah.
Then you have the street. Then you have the sub levels that were like the cities that were broken by the atomic age or whatever, the atomic wars.
Just the cities that they built upon, and they're like, you guys can live down there, right?
Yeah. So there are people that live down there that I'm assuming are like mutants or whatever. And then there's even like a lower level, and that's where the robots are working with their pipes or whatever. That's what it looked like, at least.
Yeah.
So yes, people are not super happy, but they have things like pleasure malls, which I don't know what that is.
The pleasure
but
mall.
I assumed it was dirty. It was just from the name of it, and maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's just like back massages or something. But it seemed like
things that are pleasurable are there. You can. It's subjective to what people find pleasurable.
Yeah, exactly. But there is a tree in the middle of this that has this ability to, and the grossest thing about this is it's fed from one of those sewer pipes or whatever. So what it's feeding or what it's eating, I don't know if it's supposed to be like the ripe fruit falls into like its fountain and then as it rots, then goes into waste, or if the waste is feeding it and that's what it makes this possible. But basically this tree can like make fruit, ripen them, and then fall off the overly ripe ones in a matter of minutes. Yeah, just 2 minute cycles or whatever. So while you're walking through the town square or the pleasure mall square, you just reach out, grab a ripe apple. You can see the ones rotting, so they're like a different color or whatever. And this tree, I guess, is robot-ish or something because it rebels. And it like shoots all these apples into a crowd and starts fucking people up just like in general.
Yeah, I can't imagine getting hit with a hard apple.
Yeah.
Like shot at you like, I don't know, 50, 60 plus miles an hour probably.
Yeah, I mean a non-ripe apple, I guess, at least it's mushy.
Yeah.
But like, or like a overly ripe apple, but one that's like not ripe and it's just hard as a rock. It hurt like a motherfucker. And then we see like right as this happens, maybe coincidentally, maybe not, like these guys burst into some of the stores in the mall, and they're like, "Hey, give us, your fucking stuff and your money and all this. Open up these cabinets or these like safes or whatever." And we think it's money, and then they open it, and then it's like
it's body parts.
It's body parts. So it's like eyeballs and fingertips,
eyes
and all this
and
stuff.
noses,
and they even say like, "Yeah, leave the tips. We don't need the fingertips. Like, we just want the eyes and the whatever." So they're like, this store is like a body part store, and we see there's a robot that's there, and the guy who's like in charge of the store is like, "Hey, robot, how come you're not like helping me?" He's like, "I am not supposed to hurt customers." And they're like,
they're not customers, they're stealing.
It's like, I can't hurt customers. Yeah. And so we're like, wait, is this malfunctioning on purpose, or is it rebelling, or what's going on? So it seems like possibly either someone's programming these robots to be rebellious, or there is a rebellion going on. We're not sure.
Viva la revolution.
But it has timed out well with this robbery. So, and that's, of course, when the judges come. And the judges, for all those you don't know, they are basically what the law system has become, the justice system.
Yep.
So in the society, because of order collapsing and everything, and it always being like on such a thin razor blade of craziness.
Yeah.
Basically, the judges, there's no judicial system.
Yep. No lawyers.
No courts, no any of that bullshit.
You use judge, jury, executioner,
yeah,
if needed, all in one.
And sentencing and all that shit. Yeah, like the judge walks up and goes like, 10 years for putting your bike in the wrong spot or whatever. You're like, what? And then like, and then like someone shoots someone, he's like 20 years to life for murder. And then if you run, then it's more on top of that. And then, so basically, I mean, we have a fascist police state, which I always thought was interesting that people like Judge Dredd so much, where it's like, yeah, he's badass. I'm like, yeah, but he's like a fascist cop. So, that's an interesting character, so that you want to like him because he's the protagonist, but at the same time, he's like part of a fascist police corps, but he is like a righteous one. So as long as the law isn't bad, like a bad law, like then he's following the law to the T.
To the T,
so,
yeah. It's still, yeah, as long, but it's.
But they even say in this, judges can go bad, right? Mm-hmm. Judges, bad things can happen to judges where it's either people make them bad, or like they just become corrupt in general because people like to get money or drugs or sex or whatever. They can get corrupted easily. So,
yeah.
Police that have this kind of power, probably not the best idea in general, but. In this state, that's what they have because, it's a giant city and that's the best they could come up
8
with.
million, some people.
Yeah. 8 billion.
Oh,
800 million. That's
right.
So.
Huge numbers.
Yeah. So, too many people. But anyway, so this tree, while the judges are there looking at the robbery that just happened, looking into it, arresting people and sentencing them and all that, the tree explodes again. And shoots more fruit at everybody, and then this is kind of where we see they set up all the Judge Dredd gun stuff in this. Where like, oh, he just yells out like incendiary, and
the lawgiver.
Yeah, the lawgiver. His gun, it has different modes that it is, voice activated. So we see like, oh, he says like high X, and it's like high explosive.
Yeah, which high explosive is the craziest. I love that they specifically state that.
Yeah, and he like blows the fuck out of the tree with it. Or whatever. So. He sentenced that tree to death. And so, so like basically that's kind of what's going on. And then the interesting thing is the robots also malfunction again while there, and one of them, I think it kills one of the other judges, right? Like one of the robots that was like, I cannot do anything to these robbers because they're customers, goes like, intruder, and like stabs or like shoots one of the other judges. Yeah, she shoots
one of the judges.
And then they're like, what? And then it says like, we have no owners, like as they say, armor piercing, and then they shoot it with armor piercing bullets. So it tries to kill a judge, and they're like, what the fuck? And basically then we see like Judge Dredd chasing one of the robbers who got away, and he's like one of the. Didn't he have like a conscience, like a like, oh, I don't know if this was okay, guys. We shouldn't be doing this.
He was the one guy who was like, I don't know if we should be robbing.
And then turns out, Judge Dredd's like, cool, Cool, bro. Anyway, you're like sentenced to hard time for 8 years for resisting arrest, running away from a crime scene, robbery, and all this shit.
Yeah, we'll see how solitary does for you.
Yeah, and so then like as he's talking to him, his head explodes. He's like, "What the fuck?" Like, this world is so fucking crazy that we're like thrown into right here, and like basically the bots are just killing people and stuff right now, and
yeah, all these bots keep having, and it was hard to be like, did somebody do this to all the robots, or are they just
it's just
do it on their own, or
and then this is another thing about this book is it does have like 8-page story breaks, or I don't know if it's exactly 8, but like they'll do like 8 pages of a single story, then it'll be like next when judges go bad, and then like it'll do like a little cover interlude, and then there'll be another story, same by the same writer but new artist. So then we get like a little breakdown of it's similar to what was going on. We see another robbery in place happening, and the robot that's there is like, it's like a jewelry store this time, and the robot's like standing there with him. But we find out that this robot has been used for like sexual purposes because it's a lady robot.
Yeah.
She's like, I am not going to be your sex slave anymore or whatever. And the guy's like, no, just, look after the shit, and, we'll do our after hours stuff later or whatever. and then we find out that, so like while this was going on, this like robbery and craziness, I don't know if this is at the same mall or if this is at a different mall. They don't really
they didn't really say specific.
I'm assuming it's kind of in the same mall, like at the same time. This is just another story. But it turns out this guy that's a regular customer steals earbuds, like Apple Pod buds or whatever, from this store that looks like a jewelry store because the dude's got like a monocle, like a jewelry eyepiece and all this stuff. But apparently they sell
electronics too.
Yeah, Mac stuff. Or
high end.
And so Mac's still around in 2100. So invest in Mac. So, but he gets all pissed off, and he's like, how dare you? You like, these looters are stealing from me, and you're like my loyal customer. But like, and the guy's like, well, when in Rome.
When in Rome, yeah.
like, I'm gonna steal some shit or whatever, and he like.
Tells the robot.
He tells the robot like, stop that guy.
Stop
and
him.
The guy pushes him out of the way, and the robot's like, stop him yourself if you're such a tough guy. And then like, and then the little guy, the store owner, runs down the dude, tackles him, and actually like gets him on the ground. But then he actually strangles him. He strangles the guy that stole the headphones with the headphones.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to make you pay. Like, he says, like, you're basically stealing food out of my mouth because, like, you could just buy it. You're, like, rich and you always come in here and buy shit all the time, but you're just going to steal, headphones from me? And then as he does that, you see there's a judge that's like, freeze, scumbag, you're arrested for murder. So, like, I think this was, like, at the exact same time as the other stuff, but basically it's just a little story of him getting thrown in for murder. And then, like, he tries to lie. He says, like, no, Judge, wait, my robot, she malfunctioned, and there are all these looters. And it's like, the robot's like, lie detector analysis, 99% inaccurate. Like, totally fucking with the dude. And so she's malfunctioning, and also this dude killed someone. So we get to see, like, how swift.
Malfunctioning, but also, like, I'm tired of his BS, it seemed like.
Yes. Well, I mean, malfunctioning because she's supposed to be a robot listening to him, right? So she has gone, I mean, this is like Asimov shit, like this is iRobot or whatever, They have become sentient, and they are
State the 3 rules of robotics.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Where's your 3 rules of robotics? And then that's the end of it. Like, that's a little story. So, it's like 4 or 5 pages long. And I kind of liked that in this. Like, you get a full, like, little vignettes of what's going on and, like, what happens kind of thing. And then the next story in this is, like, there's a dude named Myers who is another judge, I guess. And
he's another judge, but he's one that like we're kind of seeing maybe falls on. We're not sure if he falls on that line of like a corrupt judge, perhaps.
Yeah, we're not sure because you don't know who's corrupt and who's not. But basically, in the line of duty, there's like I don't know if it's like a trash droid or like it's a recycle droid, I guess. And it's like a scrap metal droid, so it's got like these teeth, and it flies over and starts attacking judges with some of his brothers or what, the robot brothers. And then one of them latches onto Myers' helmet, and it looks like it's gonna like eat his head, but then they like shoot the robot and get out of it. And then basically this is kind of like where the main story of this takes off. Like, okay, what's going on? This guy named Myers, and he's like,
because Judge Dredd like escorts him home, basically.
Yeah, and there was like there was a death. I'm trying to remember exactly what happened in this one. There was like a death or something, and he's got to get questioned on what happened. And like so then we're introduced. And the way they do this is how they're introducing like the different parts of this world. So they introduce Myers, and Dredd's like, hey, we gotta, you just you went through this thing. We gotta like scan you so we know you're okay or whatever. And basically they introduce Judge Anderson, who's like a side judge. So they introduce this concept of side judges, and side judges are exactly what they sound like. Judges that have psychic abilities, and they can like scan your mind and tell if you're lying and shit or whatever, or tell. Oh, that's right. So the reason why he needs to get scanned in this is because I like this at the Zuckerberg Pleasure Mall. So it's named after Mark Zuckerberg, I assume. The riots that happened, there was some evidence that was missing, basically, and so they're like, and you were like the last one to check it out or whatever, so that's why we're checking on you. And so then we find out he's been blacking out and stuff. So that's basically, they're like, we need to do a scan because we're not sure what's been going on, and you were the last one to check it out, but you don't know what happened to this evidence we need. And so they do a scan with Judge Anderson, and she's like, she sees his whole past, and it's cool. You see like all the fights he's been in with, like, I'm sure these are references to other shit that's happened in the previous books, that like the British books. But like, there's a dude with like melting face, and like another judge named Thompson, who I don't know who that is.
Well, yeah, and that was one of the ones too, because they said that, I guess, like that was the big thing with him, is he was present at the murder of another judge.
Right,
Thompson,
right.
So.
Yeah, and so like the melting face is cool. It's a cool image here. But yeah, it's all like in black or like grays, we'll say, like a muted tones or whatever. So we see what happened, and she goes like, well, he's had one hell of a career, but he's clean. So apparently everything's good. But then Anderson goes like, oh, but there are these drugs that like are coming out. They're all experimental, and they block psi scans. So do you think it's possible that that's like what's going on? And like that, like Judge Dredd's like, I don't know, would Myers take those or whatever, kind of thing. And so Judge Dredd goes to find out what's going on with is Myers taking these drugs or whatnot. And he gets shot in the shoulder as he's like driving his bike, his
awesome bike.
Yeah, I don't remember
chopper.
I don't remember what his bike's called. They're called something, but basically he gets tracked down with or shot at with heat-seeking bullets, which is cool, called Hot Shot. And so he's like, oh, it must be a judge shooting me if it wasn't for obviously they have some kind of issue or whatever. But then they track down what's been going on after that. He goes back to the records hall, and he's like, Anderson, meet me in the records hall, or I want to look at this. So we see that Lou Thompson has been dead for 10 years, and his case has been sealed. But we don't know. Like, basically, it was sealed because he was a dirty cop or something like that. And so, yeah, that's and then also we find out that in this, because was he like the head of Psi Division? Yeah, he was a Psi Division judge. So he's like, Judge Dredd says, he's the worst kind of bent too. Side judges can screw with perps' brains, and so like you find out, oh, obviously it's great that judges not only can murder you and kill you and sentence you, but they can also fuck with your brain. They can
alter your brain.
Yeah. And all this shit. So that's where we find out kind of that like there's a conspiracy going on. They scan the memory of, or like she's like, oh, when I came across the memory of Thompson dying in Myers' mind, it was like basically an inside job. This is what they're thinking, and something to do with like the eye color of Thompson was different in his brain than in the scan or something like that.
Yeah, and it was cool because they show the melty face again, and then they show like a picture of Thompson. So it's like,
what he looked like without the melty face.
Yeah, what? Well, and it was almost like, well, wait a minute, like, was that? It kind of makes you question, like, was that Thompson? Like, what happened? Like, I know it's been 10 years, so
yeah,
it just seemed odd for sure.
Yeah. So basically, what we find out is that this Thompson guy, who was a side judge, was able to put his conscience inside of Myers and then take over Myers, basically.
Yeah, so like the blackout periods is literally when Thompson was in control doing nefarious shit.
So and then he would go back inside of Myers, and Myers would be like, "What the fuck happened?"
What happened? Yeah.
I imagine it's kind of like a werewolf or something, where you're like,
I don't know what I did. Not again.
Yeah. Why is there blood all over me every morning? I don't know. It's always after a full moon. But anyway, so they have this big shootout because he's like, you figured it out. And then like Myers is shooting out with him. And then it's like, it was an interesting ending because they finally get him. They arrest him. They're like, what do we do? Like, Myers isn't guilty of anything technically. He's innocent, but Thompson inside of him is. And fucking Judge Dredd just like, the sentence is death. Like,
yeah.
And he's just going to shoot him. But basically, the nice thing is, I guess after they shoot him in Myers' body, is they figure out that they could just transfer with Judge Anderson, they could transfer Myers into a robot. Yeah. Into a robot body. So...
Yeah, I like that because then it's like, how are you adjusting, Myers? He's like, I am adjusting adequately.
Yeah,
his little robot body.
Like, I'd be like, where's my dick? What the fuck did you do to me? I'm in a robot body.
Why am I a robot?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. But that's the end of that kind of little storyline. And then we get another kind of memory storyline going on. And all of these, like we said, are written by Dwayne Straczynski, but they're all drawn by someone else. This was the kind of weirdest drawn one, I thought.
Definitely, yeah. There's
two weird drawn ones, but this is the first one. I was like, what?
And we were talking about this afterwards. Right before we started this here. This is the one I was talking about that really got me the most with the art, and we'll talk about it as we go.
Yeah. So this lady wakes up. And she's like, "What? What's going on?" And there's a
dead body next
to her, and then like an ice pick. And she's like, "Oh shit, was I set up or what's going on? I don't remember any of this." And then, like right as she's about to start cleaning up and stuff, Judge Anderson walks in and is like, "Stop right there! You're under arrest." And like, they call her. They like, "Who are you?" They start just questioning her. They find under the dead body a note that says, "Don't think, just go here." And so it's like, wait, who wrote this and what's going on? And there's like a key to a locker, like a train station locker there. And so she says, "Oh, my name is Jane," and all this kind of stuff. They go to the locker with Jane, and we see there's like all these. There's like a pill, like a memory pill, in there, and then it's also like her. I guess it's like a passport or something. I'm not sure exactly. It's like some kind of
identification book or something.
Yeah. And then she like takes a pill. Then she remembers, oh yeah. As she takes a pill, it like kicks in, and it's like one of those memory pills that they're talking about. So
yeah,
apparently there's a pill that blocks your memory from psi people, and then there's another one that reactivates it later on or whatever. So because you forget too.
Yeah.
So it reactivates your memory. So she takes it, then she's like, oh yeah. Within seconds it becomes clear. I remember everything that I forgot, and she can scan it. And she's like, apparently I'm a serial killer.
She's a serial killer.
So she just like, murdered someone like she always does. It shows her like stabbing this dude in the face after she kind of gets him drunk and parties with him. And then like, she's murder. And so then she just gets arrested right away because she was with the judge. So,
apparently she's been killing people on her block for years.
Yeah. Yeah, they just happened to catch her this time because the note fell onto the body.
Yeah.
So I guess she would like kill people with the memory block happen, then leave a note for herself that like around the room that says, go here, you'll like, find who you are or whatever.
Yeah.
Then she would go there. Then she'd, remember, okay, that's who I am, take the pill and everything, and then have her passport. And so she never got caught until now because the note was under the body. So that was dumb of her.
It was. And so in particular, this one, like the Jane girl looks the same pretty much throughout all of it. But
the body,
Judge Anderson in particular, there's one panel, the first one where she bursts in and she's like, stop right there, or whatever, you're under arrest. She looks, she looks like a little blockier version of herself from the other ones before, but it's fairly obvious.
To be fair, I don't even know if it's Anderson. I just assumed because we just got introduced to her.
And she's blonde.
Yeah, but I'm trying to see on their name badges, because normally their like name badges are pretty forward.
It's true, it's pretty big.
And none of them say Anderson or anything. And she's with another person like that I assume is Dredd, but it's not. It doesn't say Dredd on his either. So it's kind of weird. Normally that's part of the yard is they.
I assume because she's like the main one that
Well, and they just introduced the storyline where they're like, oh, there's side judges and this is what they do. They scan brains and whatever.
But it's like the next panel, when they show her again, she looks like Tim Curry from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, but with a blonde wig instead of black hair.
Wow. Which one is this one? Is this the one you're talking about?
No. Go back.
There's a couple of shots of her face.
Yeah, so go. I'm sorry. Go forward from that.
Okay.
So that's the one. She's like, "Hey, I'm here," and then one more. Yeah. I think maybe that is the one.
That must be the one.
Yeah, I think that's the one.
You were like,
yeah, because it's just
the most forward
different
shot of her. Yeah, it does not look consistent at all. So the art is not very consistent in this, but people got to start somewhere.
Yeah, no, and the story in this was still like it was
fine.
A fun part.
It fit it, and it was like it's 8 pages long, so it's not the end of the world for having to figure it out. All right, then the next part of this is pretty much the main story that occurs from now in the book till the end of the book. So it kind of wraps it up. It's a longer little section, but basically this one is like a kidnap story. We see that there's a town that's all Trump alert. Trump alert, we got a code Trump or whatever, and this guy's been kidnapped, and basically there's been a kidnapping, which is like code, what's the kids code or whatever, code
Amber Alert?
Well, there's an Amber Alert, but then there's like the boy one for like, who's the guy that did Unsolved Mysteries, that guy's kid, Joe Walsh.
Oh,
his kid, whatever. His
Walsh
or
alert.
something. I don't remember. No, I got my his son has an alert too for that or whatever, for like if a kid gets kidnapped. But
I don't remember.
Yeah, the Aaron alert or something like that. Adam alert. Code Adam. And so basically it's that, but it's for I guess I don't know if Trump got kidnapped at some point or something, but that's what they're assuming. Some Trump in the future got kidnapped, and now they have a Trump alert for anytime. I'm assuming this dude's rich because the way he talks as well. He's like obviously an upper crust person, an upperclassman.
Yeah, he's definitely on the higher levels.
And so he gets kidnapped. So obviously, rich person gets kidnapped. All the judges are out in force looking for him and figuring out what's going on. So,
yeah, and it says they take 37 seconds to find him. So like it's all the judges are out.
Yeah, and so Judge Dredd goes to the house, I guess, where he stays, and there's the wife of the guy is there, and then she's got a video that she's watching of her husband being tortured and like maimed and like body parts being taken off in live time or whatever by the kidnappers. And we find out they've kidnapped.
She's like, you don't have my husband. What are you talking about?
Yeah, like he's right here or whatever. And they're like, turns out the real husband is on the table getting his arms and legs cut off or whatever the longer they wait to pay the ransom. And they cloned her husband so that she wouldn't notice he was missing until they sent this video. So we find that out. And he's like, Lambkins. Like the clone walks in. He's like, Lambkins, you'll never believe what happened to me? Like, like I was arrested, but they thought I was kidnapped or whatever. And like, so we see like, oh, he doesn't know what's going on. He's a clone. And then the bad guy is seeing all this on the screen, tells them his plot or whatever. Like, oh, we cloned you, and now we're going to do this, and we're gonna get ransom from you, and you better give us, $8 million or whatever the fuck, $800 billion gazillion dollars. And so, they also find out, they reveal that there's like, it says within a few minutes, 9 other cases have been reported. The targets relatives of the wealthiest city residents. So we see like wives of these people, husbands, children, and then pets.
Even pets.
And they show this weird bulldog with a cat face. That's in that.
Yeah, I guess in the future they're doing weird things with pets too.
And we see they do an homage to the I can has Hansburgers meme with that. And so they have one of that cat dog saying, I can has anesthesia, and there's all these knives around it like they're gonna kill it. So basically they threaten all this stuff, and they're like, we want you to send a shit ton of money and like, take all this money to this place, and we'll pick it up and we'll be happy, and we'll release them. So they agree to do that, and the person who's driving the truck for this, because it's got to be like a van full of, they said there's nothing smaller than like $1 million bill or something in there. So like it's a giant amount of money, and it's a $2 million bill. That's what they say. Nothing smaller than a $2 million bill. We would have had to order a fleet of hovercrafts if we were gonna actually pay if it was smaller than that. So, the chief has Judge Dredd, his best man, on it driving, and he assigns this other guy, Judge Tarjay, to be his backup or co-captain or whatever on this van. And so they're taking it. And it turns out this was actually the robot that this was the judge that got shot in one of the robot uprisings at the mall. He didn't die, he just got shot. And so that's, I'm assuming, how they got his DNA that day. Because it turns out as they go through this, they get attacked, obviously. They were told, they're getting directions as they're going, and then they're like, that's not, like, you said we were going to meet at this place, but that's not to this place. And then they find out, oh, it's like a trap. And then so Judge Dredd's like, it's about to get bumpy. And then like he just like pushes through this net that they try to catch him in, and all this shit with the car, and they do this, all this stuff, and then to try to like slow him down and capture him. And then it turns out at the end that he's like, I never thought they'd ambush me like this. And then we see Judge Tarjay has a gun to the back of Dredd's head, and we see he's talking. Judge Dredd the whole time is talking to Anderson, and she's like, he's like, Anderson, okay, give me the location of this other ambush, because like as she was reading the minds of some of the other bad guys or whatever, and they're like, she's like working on it, and then she's like, oh, they're gonna ambush you inside your own ship, and right when she says that, you see the Judge Tarjay has a gun to Judge Dredd's head. And so then we get this weird, this is the other ugly.
This is definitely the weirdest art in
the
there.
ugliest art, the worst art, I would say. But sorry, it's from Langoon Foss. I don't know. It's just it just looks totally different. If the whole comic looked like this, it might be okay. But it was like it just looks totally out of place for the rest of this book. But basically, there's like this guy wakes up naked, and we don't know, but this is supposed to be Tarjay. But it's supposed to be, we find out it's his clone, actually. But he wakes up naked in the middle of nowhere, and he's like, what the hell? What's going on? He's like trying to figure out who he is, what's going on. He like has to go get clothes. He gets attacked by some junkies in town. And then when he gets back to his apartment, he's like, finally, I can exact some justice and find out what's going on with me. And then you find out, oh, he's a judge because he puts his judge outfit on.
Yeah.
So that's how Tarjay, he puts his outfit on, he walks into his job, and it says, wanted, Judge Tarjay. And he's like, well, hey, that's me. And it's because, he has, he betrayed Judge Dredd or whatever. So, this guy runs away, throws his shit in the
his uniform away.
Yeah, there you go. Well, it's like in a trash can. It's like a dispose tube. Sometimes it's like fire or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And so
dispose a tube.
Yeah, he does that, and then we like that's like the end of that storyline. So like the art goes back to where it was before, and we see okay. Oh, you know what? I guess that's what happened to the real Tarjay, because this Tarjay is on the ship with him, and that's why he's wanted. So the real Tarjay woke up naked and was like, "What the fuck's going on?" So his clone is on the ship with Dredd. Now he's gonna shoot him in the head, but he's like, basically, we find out the people that are doing this ransom, they're like, they can control the clones. So he's like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't want to hurt you, Dredd, but I can't. And he's like fighting it, and Judge's like, drop the lawgiver. And he's gonna stop more and more like Stallone as we go.
Yeah.
But yeah. So like basically, they find out what happened. He was cloned. Like now, Dredd already knows, so he tells this dude, "Hey, you're a clone." He's like, "I'm not a clone. What are you talking about? I just can't not put my gun
not
in the
control.
back of your head."
Control myself.
I'm like, it's kind of obvious that this is what's happening, and like Anderson is helping, trying to figure out what's going on, like in Dredd's headset the whole time, and so basically, they, Dredd is going all over the place. He's trying to like not land where the guy tells him to, and he ends up running into like another flying car. I guess they have a lot of flying cars going on, but
I thought he did it on purpose to like
I think that's what it was. Is he was like, yeah, well, we're going the right way, and then he just like runs into this car that's in the sky as well, and then kind of throws Tarjay off so that he can beat the fuck out of him, and then he's able to not have the money go anywhere. And actually, it's funny because they actually land, because they were close to the area where they're going to drop it off, and they land actually at where they have the
where the cloner guys are.
Yeah, where the hikes, or the what's it called? The ransom people.
Ransom, yeah.
They have all their people there cutting up this dude, like cutting off his legs and shit, and he's like, "Lambkins, is that you?" Like, it reminded me, he's like what's that movie? Fuck. The one we like with Wall Street. Trading Places.
Oh, Trading Places,
it reminds me of Dan
Aykroyd's character.
Yeah, Dan Aykroyd's character, where he's like, "Lammy poo." But yeah, like if that was him or something. But yeah, so anyway, Judge Dredd, I don't think he was supposed to actually bring the money here directly. He was supposed to go somewhere else close by. But he because Judge Anderson was telling him, oh, they're here, they're at this spot, he was able to crash land in there. So then now he can just fuck everybody up. And he fights them all. And he, takes them on. No big deal. It's Judge Dredd. He murders them all. There's some cool art and fight scenes in this.
Yeah, and he sentences them all to death.
Yes, he's like, you can give up, and it'll just be 20 to life or whatever. And they're like, or it's death.
Or it's death.
You fight. So he's like, oh, death. All right. So he murders them all, and so it's a fight, obviously, but he murders them all. So.
Yeah, but it's not like that hard of a fight.
Yeah, I mean they're weird surgeons or whatever. So then he goes to open the car to see where Tarjay is, and then we see basically he's turned into goop. I guess like the clones can be blown up or whatever.
Yeah,
when they're out of use. I don't know exactly how it works, but
yeah, that was weird. It was like, I guess they can break them down back to the molecular level. Or something.
They're like, we found him. And he's like, where? He's like, all over the place. Apparently, Judge Tarjay was pulled apart at the molecular level. So like, how does that work? So it says they were built with a fail-safe, so at any moment they can remotely trigger to dissolve, is what they say. So, which is funny because the next page has the clone and the guy who's missing his limbs now, who's the original missing dude, and they're staring at each other. So you're like, wait, is he gonna just dissolve at the table now?
Yeah,
which would be super weird and fucked up. But now they're like, well, we got to find Judge Tarjay, the actual one. He was stashed somewhere. So then this one we get this little what's going on with him. He wakes up, he doesn't know what's going on. He's got memory loss and everything. He takes some pills to block. It says to block it because he's in hiding now. Because this is the guy that was naked originally, and now he's hiding from judges. So he's taking pills to block the side judges from being able to find him, and he's being chased by Judge Dredd. So he's going through the sewers and the tunnels, and Judge Dredd's trying to be like, dude, we know you're like innocent. It was a clone or whatever, but he's not listening to him. He's like not letting Dredd have the time to like explain it.
Yeah, they started chase and they're running after him, and Judge is trying to get to him, but then I guess he kind of like opens fire at Judge, and Judge is like, well, and so he like shoots he returns fire.
Yeah, and so like basically like he tried to kill a judge. Like, like now I gotta like it would even if he tried to kill me, he probably would have let him off because it's like he thinks he's fighting that, but then he takes a hostage and the judge is like drop it before you do something stupid. And then he sees like on his arm, it's kind of like Memento, actually. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but Memento leaves in that movie. The guy like forgets everything every day or whatever, and he's got to read little Post-its that he leaves for himself and like figure out what happened. And so this guy has got like a writing on his arm. Tajay's like, if cornered, press button on watch. So like obviously he's got like weird shit written on his arm for that kind of thing. He pushes the button, and then an explosion happens. So now Tarjay gets burned, but he's also like an attempted judge killer because Judge Dredd's like Judge Dredd's like knocked out, but then he's like Tarjay's like, I'm an attempted judge killer, and his hand says wanted for the attempted murder of a judge. So he already knew he was going to do it, I guess. He like setting him, it's like someone's setting him up, I think, because like they must have written on him or something. I don't know. But then he's like, cool. Let's see if I can go pro. And like, that's how this one ends. It's like, I thought it was a fast turn, but it was a fun read or whatever. A fun little side story.
Yeah. Cause I mean, he wasn't a judge, but I guess they were saying, like they alluded to very early on that judges can be corrupted. So obviously something made him turn throughout this. So
yeah, I'm just assuming he was out, on the run for a bit, and then taking those memory pills, and they're experimental memory pills, true. So maybe they made him go bad or something. I don't know 100%, or blocking pills is what they are, but like mental blockers. But that sounds terrible. Why would you take mental blockers?
Yeah.
I can't think or anything. So, but anyway. So, yeah, and then he doesn't know who wrote on his arm and shit, too. So then it's like, well, it could have been him or someone else. So maybe someone was planning all this shit. But either way, I liked this because they set up this storyline. So obviously Tarjay's going to be in future storylines. This guy's on the run. They've set up the robots are going bad. We want to find out what's going on with that. So, like, I liked this. It wasn't as good as, like, say, some of the other stuff I've read of Judge Dredd that we can't fucking get because it's not in print here, or not digitally in print either.
Yeah.
But it was like a good introduction to the world. They did a good job of introducing lots of the world in like small parts. So you got like each one kind of escalated. So it's like the first one was like a tree is attacking people and robots are a thing or whatever. And also here's a judge. And then the next one was like, oh, this is like the judges have lawgivers, the gun, and they're like the judge, jury, executioner, and they have these fancy rounds and shit, and they can kill people.
You got some low-level crime, and then they kind of slowly escalated up.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, and here's a side judge, and then here's like what they can do. And I liked that. They introduced the world really well and set it up so you can understand it if you've never read Judge Dredd ever. And like not from the beginning, because at the beginning of Judge Dredd, it's like in the 70s, or it's in the 70s when that was written, and so those early ones are a little bit different than some of the newer ones or whatever. So at least I've read like the storyline America, which is the one I wanted to read to introduce you to because it's like one of the best stories that I've heard at least. And then one of the best ones I've read from Judge Dredd as well. But I could not find it anywhere to buy it. Or I probably could buy the trade, but then we'd have to like swap books.
Yeah,
that'd be weird. But
could read together.
Yeah, you'll sit on my lap, and then and we'll read it to you. But yeah, so on that note, John, what did you think about Judge Dredd, your first introduction to this comic?
It was cool. So, like, my only like you said, interaction really Judge Dredd before. Like I've seen little clips of
Stallone.
Obviously Stallone, obviously the superior Dredd with Carl Urban, and then Urban. Pardon me.
No, I'm joking. You call him whatever you want.
And that's your movie. Seriously, like fantastically underrated. Like definitely.
Oh yeah, it's a great movie. I like both, but
well,
for completely different reasons.
I will say, the first one, very much like is probably one of the best nailings of comic book accurate costumes. Like they're pretty damn perfect.
They look like they came off the pages. And they're like okay. There's a difference between like nailing the look of the costume, because I thought Dredd did that fine as well.
Oh yeah, no, but it looks cartoony.
It looks cheesy. Like they're like, hey, you know what? You know how sometimes the dimensions look weird on it? Like sometimes it's bad, just cartoonishly big. Let's do that in the movie.
Let's do that in the movie, yeah.
You can't do that stuff in the movie because then it makes it more like ridiculous. So,
I am the law.
Yeah. And so, and let me take my helmet off.
Yeah, he took it, yeah.
He never takes his helmet off in this. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and Carl Urban did that. He doesn't take it off, though.
Exactly, because he never does.
That's right.
Comic.
Anyway, comic-wise, it was cool. Like you said, it was a fun introduction. I got a little more in depth of like actually the goings on during the time frame, the different, like it kind of like they expanded on the the levels of the city and like kind of the goings on behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. So that was cool. And
which robot do you think Rob Schneider was in?
The female one.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know, but overall, like I said, it was fun. 3/4 of the art in this was pretty good. Like I enjoyed it. Was
it was just solid. Like
it was just weird that like so many of them stayed in that lane, and then there were two that were like, I'm gonna try something different.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, some of the other ones had different art too. Like the last story had different art, but it looks fine.
But it looks fine for. I just mean like it's. Look, when you have a visual aid to your storytelling,
visual medium, visual.
Yeah, and you're reading along, if you have something very abstract from what you have normally been looking at,
it's going to be jarring.
It can be distracting
for sure.
So,
and it's funny because these came out as issues, so I want to know. I mean, was the first one like those 3 little 8-page stories? Because that's 24 pages. So, or like how did they release it? Obviously, it must have been that because. But it was weird because they'd say, like, continuing on the next chapter or whatever. You're like, wait, so was this? So I mean, maybe I'm wrong and these are actual reprints of Judge Dredd stuff from the comics, but more recent stuff. I don't know. But either way, what would you give this one, John?
Either way, I like the character. It is weird to get behind a fascist police state character, but
you can still enjoy his story.
Yeah, exactly. But I can enjoy the story. So I would say overall, I give it a 7.
A 7. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna give this specific trade a 6. It's good. I want to read it further. Like I actually like at the end of this little thing, I was like, oh, that's it. Like I want to continue the storyline. Now I want to know what happens to Tarjay or whatever. He became a bad guy or whatever. So I feel like it did what it's supposed to do comics wise, it makes you want to read more. If I was buying this in issues, I don't know if I would, like from the first issue was good. And then if you pick it up and it's like weird art or the story isn't the continuation of that other story, I might be like, wait a second. But I would probably give this a more than one chance because I know, they're breaking it up into like 8-page story kind of thing. So, and with that case, but as a trade, I think it reads fairly well, and everything kind of leads into each other. I liked how they did that and introduced the world. So a 6 is like a solid, this is a good read. You should pick it up if you find it and you are interested in Judge Dredd at all. I wouldn't say, even if you're not interested in Judge Dredd, you should read this or whatever, which is like, to me, that's like a 7, 8, 9 or whatever is like, hey, or like an 8, 9, 10 maybe, is like, I don't give a fuck what you like. You should read this because it's going to change your life. Like, and that's how you think like Watchmen or Dark Knight or something like that. Like those are just like, oh, this is like literature. Like this is like a real book or whatever. So to talk in normie terms there. But this is Tolstoy and this is, who's that guy that writes crime Peterson or whatever, like or Grisham or whatever.
Yeah, John,
like John
this
Grisham.
is your standard John Grisham comic. And
yeah, pretty much. So, and I've never read John Grisham, but I'm sure he's great. But it's the stuff you pick up at airports when you're like, I'm gonna.
They have him at the grocery store counter right before.
You're like, I'm gonna read a book when I'm bored on a plane or whatever. I'll just pick this up and it'll be a fast, easy read, and I'm sure I'll get a little bit of, ooh, that was fun. But like, that's what this was. Yeah. It was like, oh, this is fun.
New York Times bestseller does not mean it's a fantastic book. So throw that out there.
Have you found that out through personal experience, John? You're like, you son of a bitch!
You lied.
I want my $6 back. Actually, from an airport, it's like $40.
Yeah, minimum. I was like minimum
for a paperback pocketbook. Yeah, but anyway, so I thought this one was like a good, like, solid read if you're interested in Judge Dredd and you can't find any of the other stories and you're not sure about, like, the ones that are the British ones. One, they're in pounds on the back, so like. It says 25 pounds, and then you're like, oh, that's like almost $50 or whatever. So it's like, that's a lot to spend on a trade of something I don't know that I like. And it's like, it's giant. I mean, it's like 1,000 pages of progs, just that one volume, and there's like 15 volumes or whatever. So it's like so many. Yeah. You're like, I don't know if I want this whole thing.
I mean, I'm probably going to like some stories in here, but do I want to drop that much money?
Yeah, do I want to drop that much money? And maybe it's not the best one. I don't know which one it is. So you could pick this one up and either read it digitally or, like we read it borrowed on Comixology because I have unlimited. So you can have unlimited for $6.99 a month and just read, borrow it from the library or whatever. So you could do that. And you get the whole feel, you get the introduction, and then maybe from this you'll go like, wow, I really like this world. Now I'm willing to drop $50 on the fancy British case files books or whatever. So, which I had all those at once. I read a lot of them, and I didn't have all of them. I had all the ones that were released at one time because they started coming out around the time I was at the comic book store, and I'm like, oh, like what's this British stuff? Started reading that, and I was like, oh, this is fantastic. So, yeah. This is like a good introduction. I kind of wish they would do this with like the other characters, like Strontium Dog and Rogue Trooper and all that shit. But I don't think they're gonna do that for anybody but Judge Dredd, unfortunately. But because those, like, he's a household name, so it kind of makes sense. But yeah. So this is a good introduction. I would say pick it up. I give it a 6. John gives it a 7. And next week we are going to be reading Invincible. Which is I don't know if everybody's heard, there's an animated TV show coming out. It's by Robert Kirkman, who wrote the Walking Dead comic book all the way through like one issue 193. And then also, he's like a producer on the TV show and stuff. So if you like that show, this is his superhero book. It's very much like an adult version of Superman, I guess you'd say, where like, or it's like, boy learns out, like Superboy, I guess. Boy finds out that he is a super person, like his dad is super or whatever, and it's very much adult. I will say that.
It's very. I like.
It is very fucked up. It's very bloody and very fucked up. It'd be like, what if superheroes really did punch someone in the face? Well, their hand will go through the head or whatever. So stuff like that happens. I just remember reading this and be like, holy fuck! Like, I haven't read anything like this, like superhero wise. And then like right after this came out, this was like one of the first kind of bloody books of this kind, because it's a fun superhero book too. So there's not too many fun books that are also this kind of subversive, bloody and everything. Yeah. There's like Watchmen and stuff, which are like super bloody, but they're super dark and kind of downers or whatever. So this is the fun book that you're like, I really want to read every issue of this, but also holy fuck,
holy crap,
bloody.
That just happened.
Yeah. And so this is really fun book. So we're gonna read the first 2 volumes of that because there's only 4 issues in each volume, so we might as well just read the first 2.
Yeah, I'm excited because I know you've talked this one up for me a long time, and then when you were like, "Oh, look, they're making a cartoon of it," we watched the trailer, and I was like, "Oh, that looks really bad."
Yeah, and the trailer was like pretty lame. Like it was like, "Hey, this guy flies around, and there's some blood and shit." And I'm like, "Okay, that's like a pretty lame pitch for this book," but the book gets super like heavy.
I'm excited,
and so I loved this book when it was coming out. I didn't ever finish it, but I'm buying the compendiums right now, so I will work my way through it. There's like 150 issues of this book, so he when he does a series, he does it right. Like he continues it and then finishes it, and he's the writer on every issue. God damn it,
nice.
And so I appreciate that.
He will complete his dream.
Yes, exactly. And some writers don't do that shit. And so we're gonna read that one. So pick it up, read it with us, and find out what we like or how we liked it, or have a spoil the fuck out of it for you. So. And on that note, also I apologize for us being late this week too. We had some family stuff come up.
Family costs.
And we were like, we can't record on Sunday. No, what will the fans think? So we hope you guys aren't too disheartened, but we got it a day late. So
we try to get these out on time though.
Yeah, but I think this is one of the first days we've ever had like a late one. So but anyway, we'll see you guys on the next one. If you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email us at Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word, at gmail.com.
And don't forget about our Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube channel for exclusive content. We got a lot of good stuff coming out, guys.
Yep. And keep an eye out. We're going to do, I already did like a Snyder Cut review, but John is going to do his first on-camera appearance for our YouTube channel. So we're going to do a spoiler review of Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League. So
we'll see. We'll see what I think.
Yeah, he hated it. Anyway, we'll see you guys next time
on the next one.
Bye. Well, folks, hope you enjoyed that episode.
If you did, and you'd like to follow us on social media, our Facebook is Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, and our Instagram is @Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word.
And be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more recommendations to add to your weekly pull list.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.